With us now is Nick. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm terrific. How are you?
Good. What a view we have today.
Yeah, this is Mill Creek, Sag Harbor, and yeah.
I'm looking outside and I'm thinking, okay, this is one of those glorious days, sometime in the end of October, when all the things are changing and life is regenerating. As it dies, there's a new birth, right? So one of the things that I liked learning about you is that you're kind of an extraordinary individual, and the fact that you do not only just residential construction, but also commercial construction.
Right.
So you're kind of like I would say a Renaissance type of a person, where things come to you in a dream, you visualize things, and then voila. Now, have you always been like that?
Well, I grew up in a construction family, so I started out very young, like as a very little kid, and I was mainly a framer.
Okay.
My father was a framer, and I always thought it was very amazing how we'd pull up to a foundation, there'd be a pile of wood, and then we'd leave and there'd be a house standing, so it still amazes me to this day. I mean, back then we were building tract homes, so you could literally frame and sheathe the house in 2 or 3 days. Now it's a lot different.
Okay.
Now we build custom homes, and we do renovations to restaurants, and it's months-long process just to get it closed in. And I moved on from that into general construction, so we do the entire project. So typically, like for a house like this, we were here for 13 months, so.
Now, did you help, did the family come to you with drawings or sketches and they said, hey, can you turn these into architectural renderings? Like you brought in an architect. Like, what's the process when somebody says, I'm ready for my forever home.
Right.
I want to do a custom build. What is that process like?
Well, that's a great question because it varies. Okay, so this house in particular, they happen to be very close friends of mine. They used to live across the street from me, and they came to me and said, I want to build a forever home. So I hooked them up with a great architect that we work with, Sal Cicerelli, and they got together and spoke about what their needs were, and we commiserated and we came up with this design. And then, we put a budget together and we built it. It's not always like that.
Okay.
A lot of times what we do is we get plans from an architect who we've worked with before, who feels we're a great fit for their client, or we have a client who was recommended to us or saw us through social media, and they come to us with plans, and then the bidding process begins, and we're bidding against 5 different people. And, I have a great staff that works on bidding the projects, and then hopefully we win the bid and we get the job.
It goes from like the floor plan, the elevation, how many rooms do you need, and then the finishes, right?
Yes.
And all that has to be considered, right? Because you could build a
Absolutely.
4-bedroom home for one price, but if you want to do a custom build and you want to have a fine, well-established builder like yourself, right? All of that needs to go into play. Because I'm looking even at this home. I mean, the finishes here are absolutely outstanding. The floors, it's just beautiful. The crown molding that you have in this house, it's lovely.
Right. The finishes really drive the price. We get people who come to us and they're like, oh, we want to build a house, and they'll have a budget of $1 million, and we'll start to speak to them about what do they want woodwork. Like this house has a lot of woodwork, and it seems, oh, it's simple, we just put up wood, but the finishes on this wood is really what takes a lot of effort. Right down to the doorknobs, the light switches,
Right.
all of this stuff drives the price. So people have a wish list and they want to have a certain look in their house, but then when they see the price tag, we have to start to, and it's a very classic term in our industry, value engineer.
Okay.
It's a nice way of saying, we're going to take things away from your wish list.
Okay.
You can't have that.
Okay.
So then what happens is the price goes down, and then we start to build the house, and then they start to add it back in.
Correct.
For a great example with this house, and these are very close friends of mine.
Right.
We, took out the stone on the outside. We didn't have the wood on the ceiling. There's a gorgeous staircase that's made out of steel. There's an elevator. There's a golf simulator. that stuff came out of the budget.
Right.
But in the end, it went back in the budget, because when you start to see it come together, you're like, I can't not put this in this house.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, I mean, once you cross the Shinnecock Canal and you come out here, prices are higher because of a few factors. One of them being, you know, labor is more, materials are a little bit more, but it's because you have to build a house of a certain caliber. In a lot of communities, you're not allowed to do asphalt shingles. You have to have wood shingles. You know, some places, you know, you can't have vinyl siding. You have to have wood siding. You have to have stucco. So geographically, we're in an area where people are spending upwards of, you know, $450 a square foot for a, you know, very simple house with a pool, up to, you know, we've built houses for $1,200 and $1,500 a square foot, you know.
Isn't it exciting, though, for you to realize that perhaps and probably this home will last for many generations? Like the quality that you put in it today, right? When we say forever home, it's not just like maybe for your lifetime, but it's a forever home. The construction's solid.
Absolutely.
So I think it's better to do things with a higher quality, you know, for the longevity of it.
I agree, and especially here in Sag Harbor, because we have houses in Sag Harbor that are hundreds of years old, and the builders are long gone, you know. And it's funny, I've said to my wife and kids over the years, like, you know, what is my legacy? What am I going to leave behind? You know, like, you know, I'm not a politician, I'm not, you know, some famous person, but it's these houses. Like, they get mad at me because we'll drive down, you know, 27 going to Montauk, and I'll be like, I built that house, I built that restaurant, I built, you know, and a lot of them I didn't actually build from the ground up. Like this house we built, you know, there was a house here, we knocked it down, which is very typical here, and we built it from the ground up. So I built this house. But when I was framing, which I did for 35 years, I've only hung up my tool belt maybe 10 years ago. And I only did that because I watched what framing did to my father, because he framed into his late 70s. But I always felt, and I still feel, that when I walk up to a foundation and I build the structure of a house, I built that house.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it's a very literal example, but my family does get mad at me, like, you didn't build it, pal, you framed it.
But it's like the skeleton of the house. Like
Exactly,
you,
it's the
frame is like, it's the
bones.
bones.
Yeah.
You gotta have good bones.
Yeah, so there's a difference between you built the house and you were the builder on the house.
Right, I
In this
understand.
particular one, I'm the builder.
Now, you said what is your legacy, but I also heard that you have a mean sauce recipe.
I do.
Okay,
Well,
so Nick,
yes, I
tell
do.
us about that, because that's also part of your legacy.
Yes, so I come from a large Italian family, and for the first, I would say, 16 years of my life, I thought I was Italian from Italy. Like my grandparents lived next door, and everybody would get together, and we would get hundreds of bushels of tomatoes, and we would make tomato bottles, everybody, and then we'd go mushroom picking, and you know, make wine, and so I've carried on those traditions. So this fall I made 78 bottles of tomatoes, and so far my wife and I have gathered probably close to 100 pounds of 2 different types of mushrooms.
Lovely. Well, I heard it's only 77 bottles. I think one was coming my way.
Well,
I don't know. I'm just
and
saying.
mushrooms as well.
Now, commercial construction. Let's talk about that line of your business.
Okay.
What's been happening in that?
Okay, so commercially, you know, we kind of fell into commercial by accident. I met my wife at a restaurant in Sag Harbor 22 years ago that she worked at, called Sen. And it was a very popular, the only Japanese restaurant out here. And we stayed, you know, she worked there for a long time, and we stayed close with them. And it came time to renovate Sen. And it's in a historical building in Sag Harbor. And it was a natural choice. Like we helped develop it. It was a 3-story gut renovation. We did it in 7 months. And that kind of made us fall into commercial construction. We also did the one next door, which was the former Wolfer restaurant for the Sen people. And commercial construction for us out here, like, I'm not the type of guy who's going to go and build you a cement block building, white box. When you do a building out here, it's usually an older building that needs love,
Okay.
and I have the expertise, just by virtue of the fact that I grew up in it, I'm able to, see the end result and help facilitate putting the project together.
Almost like you're
so-
reverse engineering it. Like
Kind of.
you see what it could be.
Right.
And then say, okay, well, we need to maybe replace this piping. We
Yeah,
need to do this
working
or that.
with the architect to kind of
Okay.
structurally see how it's going to come together. It was very interesting. When we were doing the demolition on Sen, we found a section of the building had burned down, and no one knew it. And the shingles from the building next door were also burned, which tells us that that building was shingled. Then they built the Sen building, God knows when.
Right.
Left the shingles there, so it was all kind of burned. And then we looked into the history. My son did a little bit of research. We found out there used to be a luncheonette, but nobody who owned the building or was in the building at the time actually knew that this happened. So it's very interesting to work on these older buildings.
You're
But
discovering something almost
Yeah.
a little, yeah.
And then from that, it branched into, oh, hey, can you do me a kitchen over here? And I don't know if you've ever heard of Claudio's in Greenport.
Yes.
So we renovated.
Oh, it's beautiful. Did you do
We
that?
did that renovation.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
And again, that was through a connection through our Sen connection. And then while Claudio's was being built, there was a restaurant in Sag Harbor. There was a Latina restaurant, and they asked us if we wanted to renovate it. And they said, oh, well, would you like to pay for the renovation and then you could be partners? So we wound up doing that. So now we actually own part of a restaurant. We
Okay.
don't operate it, but
Right.
we're partners in it, just by virtue of the fact that we were, so yeah.
So that's in the way, that's what I meant by being a Renaissance person, is that you are able to create custom solutions, custom opportunities for people. You take each project on as its unique self, right? It's like you're looking at a project and you're like, okay, well, we could do this. It's not like you're cookie cuttering things.
Right.
Way back in the day when residential communities started, I guess it was maybe Levittown is one of the very first
My dad worked in
neighborhoods.
Levittown.
That's what I was going to ask you. And so you do come from a longevity of, you were saying you were framing an entire neighborhood.
Right.
So,
We used to pull up to neighborhoods and there would just be foundations.
Okay.
And then, when I was 14, I bought a moped, and I lived in Sayville, and my dad was working off Islip Avenue, and I had to leave school at the end of the day and ride my moped down to Islip Avenue and look for the foundations. And I would see, oh, there's guys framing all the way down there. I'd go, I'd park my moped and throw it in the back of his truck on the way home. So that's where I came from. And then to come out here, even when my dad was alive and he was working with me, he would be like, I can't believe you're building this house. I can't believe you've been here for a month, because they're gigantic.
Yeah.
And they're full of steel. Back then, it was just like, get it done as fast as you can.
people need a place to live,
Exactly.
right? Yeah, there's no roofs over their heads at the moment.
Exactly.
It has been such a pleasure getting to know you a little bit. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted to share with me? I know sustainability is important to you and your company, and there's so many things that are happening and how real estate can affect housing out here. Is there anything perhaps that's on, your mind as a topic that I didn't talk to you about?
Well, it's funny you mentioned sustainability and real estate. Both of those things are very connected to my business.
Okay.
Okay. The real estate market, especially the way it is right now, everybody who during the pandemic moved out here, they bought up all of the properties that were available. Now everybody wants to renovate them. Okay, so we're going to be here full time. I need an office. We're going to need another bedroom. We're going through that now.
Okay.
There's a long process to make that happen with the villages and whatnot.
And permits and things like that,
municipalities,
right.
But that's happening. But the realtors, they can feed you work. Frankly, my ex-wife is a realtor, and she'll feed us work.
She'll call you and be
Yeah,
like, hey, I got something for you.
I actually built a spec house with my ex-wife and my wife.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was-
And if they
had
can
its
both
moments.
like you, then everybody can like you,
Well,
right? It's like,
I think they both dislike me equally.
oh,
I'm kidding. But we do rely on the realtors, and we watch the realtors just like we watch the surveyors, because if they're moving, we know we're going to be moving.
Okay.
You know, we come in behind them. Now, for sustainability, you know, everybody is thinking sustainability. Everybody wants to, you know, reduce their carbon footprint, and we see that that's important. My former partner, who retired, embarked on a project. He wanted to build net zero. So our company, it's on our website actually, designed a net zero type of house, but it's not true net zero. Like, we're not there yet.
Okay.
Because we still have to rely on backup energy.
Yes.
You know, so we're exploring that. It's a very, you know, it's up and coming.
It's a new frontier.
It really
right.
is.
LEED certification, or the way a toilet flushes, or the types of lights, or the
Right.
materials, if they're recycled materials, right?
Yes,
It's a lot.
Absolutely. Right now, what we're going through out here in the Hamptons, and I believe it's going to be all across Suffolk County over the next 75 years, they want everybody to turn their septic system into a low nitrogen, a nitrogen removal system, an IO system.
Okay.
So that's happening here, you know, and we're learning about it, and it has its difficulties. We're not sure how it's going to be in the long run. So we're constantly evolving.
I love
you know?
that. Yeah, constantly learning, trying new things,
Yes.
researching things.
Yeah.
It's nice. Nice that you're on the forefront of that. So.
It is, and what's nice is now you can research things online. Like, you want to learn about, you know, one of these new septic systems, you just go online and you learn about it. Whereas before, you didn't know how to find out about it. And again, I have a great staff in my office. I'll just be like, hey guys,
Right.
look this up for me, because, you know, I'm an older gentleman. I don't have the computer skills.
Well, yesterday too, it reminds me of even my team. We have such a great team with at the studio too, but we got these new, what's called step and repeat poles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the top pole, like, I was like, how come there's not a bolt to go on the top of it? And they're like, oh, it doesn't have any instructions in the box. I said, that's okay, just YouTube it, because you could almost learn anything, right?
Absolutely.
So that's what we did, and they're like, oh, it's supposed to go this way or that way, because chances are, you know, you can always go to get information. Thank goodness that we're not like in our parents' generation, where they only had the library and the Dewey Decimal System, right?
And an encyclopedia.
Yeah, encyclopedia.
Yeah, no, it is terrific.
You knew that you were wealthy if your family was able to afford encyclopedias back then, right? If you had your own set, you didn't have to borrow from the neighbor. So, but this was a pleasure. Thank you so much. And I know we might do a little field trip.
Absolutely, yeah. I think we should go into Sag Harbor. Maybe, you know, take a walk through. You'll get to meet my staff as well. I think it's very important to note that I may build houses. I cannot do it on my own. I have a terrific staff, and we work together, and I'd love you to meet them.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Nick.
All right. Thank you.
So, how long have you been in this location?
Okay, so we've been in this location for about 2 years now.
Okay.
We were formerly in East Hampton, but because we're the property managers of all of these buildings, when the Sagtown Coffee Building burned down during the fire in the movie theater, we were contracted to rebuild it. So in due course, they asked us if we would be the property managers, and we were. We've done it, and then when a unit became available, we moved in. Now, our office in East Hampton was gigantic. This one's very small, but we love being in this community. My kids go to school here. They come in after school. They drop off their backpacks. During nice weather, we have meetings out here with clients. It's very central.
It's lovely.
We love it here.
Yeah, and for you, someone like yourself, most of your work is outside of your office anyway, right? So
Absolutely.
This is perfect.
Yes, if we need to meet clients, we could go upstairs and have coffee. We could go to Cape Pasa. We could go to Sen if it's not nice out here, you know, so.
We're having a great time in Sag Harbor. Next time, please join us. Stay tuned for more. We've been living it up right here with Nick.